Good evening. Welcome to the Japan Earth Observer YouTube channel. This is a news roundup for the past week in the space, Earth observation, and geospatial industries in Japan. I'm Robert Cheatham. I run a strategy and research consulting firm called Abaca Labs, and I write a newsletter also called Japan Earth Observer. And this week we're leading off with news about the yen. I personally studied and lived in Japan during the late 1980s and early 1990s. Those 4 years were immensely rewarding and life-changing for me. While I didn't earn a lot while working in Japan, a strong yen and rising yen meant that I could apply my earnings to pay down my student loans and save for graduate school. Over the past 30 years since then, the yen has oscillated between about 80 to 120 yen per dollar. But over the last 3 years, it has deteriorated significantly. At the end of this week, the yen had fallen to its weakest level in 39 years, with 160 yen to the dollar becoming increasingly the norm. If this trend continues, there's a risk that far fewer Japanese students will have the opportunities I did to study overseas. It will just be too expensive. For people who earn their salaries in yen, it makes every imported product more expensive. On the other hand, for overseas visitors, Japan continues to become more attractive. The weak yen also has profound implications for Japan's long-term strategy. The Takaichi government has recently unveiled an outline of a public-private investment plan focusing on 17 industry sectors where it sees Japan as having a competitive edge, including space industries, AI-powered robotics, semiconductors, batteries, and autonomous driving. So they want to invest 370 trillion yen through fiscal 2040. That's about $2.3 trillion, a pretty significant sum in Japan. The weak yen, though, means that export goods are going to appear cheap, but the inflationary impact for both companies and citizens will be profound. And if it continues to weaken further, it could upset the Takaichi government's plans to make these kinds of major spending increases. Why is the yen weakening so much? A key problem is the difference between the U.S. interest rates, which are currently around 3.75%, and Japanese interest rates currently hovering around 1%. Inflation in the U.S. is generating expectations that the Federal Reserve will raise interest rates, increasing that gap. And that makes it more attractive for Japanese investors to buy U.S. assets, weakening the yen. Next up, the story that I shared last week about the Japanese government seeking to build its own sovereign satellite network. This has already been awarded. The ministry in charge of information and communications officially selected the Rakuten and AST Space Mobile joint venture, now called RASTCO Ltd., for Japan's sovereign low Earth orbit direct-to-cell constellation. So they're going to be applying almost $1 billion in subsidies over 3 years from supplementary budgets at the national level. This beat out the KDDI Starlink alternative, as well as some of the others that I outlined last week. They aim to have limited service by 2026 and full service potentially in 2027. They have completed their first test using an early AST Space Mobile Bluebird satellite in April last year. This is it's a pretty big deal. It's a lot of subsidy funding from the national government to make this happen. Rakuten and the University of Tokyo also secured a separate 11 billion yen grant from the JAXA Space Strategy Fund to develop space-to-ground network integration R&D. It's a separate funding stream, but it's synergistic for the JEO constellation build-out. In related news, AST Space Mobile, after successfully launching Bluebirds 8, 9, and 10 a few weeks ago, is now planning to launch 11, 12, and 13 in early August, just a few weeks away. This will be the first of the more advanced Block 2 satellites with larger antenna arrays and higher peak bandwidth. These are huge satellites. They've got 2,400 square feet of antenna structure. Just massive. It'll be one of the largest things in low Earth orbit, if not the largest. Space Data has secured a couple of patents, one focused on physical AI simulation and a second focused on fractional space asset ownership. Space Data does a number of things, not just the kind of geospatial analysis that we've previously reported on, but they also build what are termed digital twins, in not just things on the ground, but also spacecraft like the ISS. So Space Data has been working on this idea of a digital twin of the ISS to use in training astronauts, and by creating a virtual training environment that mimics the actual spacecraft environment in a very accurate way, it makes that training far more effective, as well as setting them up to do work around space robotics. The second patent is around fractional ownership and profit distribution systems for space assets. The idea is to reduce capital requirements for new companies. Space Data was also in the news this week around launching a new product called Storm Simulator. This builds on their ground-based digital twin platform, and they're using AI to merge satellite data, digital terrain models, plateau 3D urban building models, and population density grids to be able to forecast flood inundation, calculate the affected infrastructure, and estimate physical and economic losses from things like typhoons and heavy rain, which hit Japan frequently. Goal here is to target sales, government, and municipalities, and large businesses. Japan also, in collaboration with Ukraine, launched what they're calling a Japan-Ukraine drone cluster, aiming to apply some of Ukraine's tested battlefield tactical expertise with a lot of the Asia-Pacific disaster response experience. So this is going to be a new platform that connects Ukrainian drone combat experience with Japanese, Taiwanese, and Southeast Asia social infrastructure and disaster prevention capabilities. So the initial focus here will be on autonomous flight in environments that don't have good GPS or it's obscured. This is true in the battlefield in Ukraine, but it's also true in a lot of the mountainous environments across the Asia Pacific. Things like multi-drone search and rescue, disaster response, secure communications, and maritime underwater infrastructure inspection. The Japanese government passed a law reorganizing and renaming the Air Self-Defense Force, or ASDF. It's been renamed officially as the Air and Space Self-Defense Force. Now, Japan's had a space operations unit for a few years. This is more of a formal recognition of something that already exists, integrating space as a domain that's integrated with what was previously limited to the Air Force. Next, the JAXA GOSAT GW satellite, which has a couple of different instruments on it. The one of which is known as the AMSR-3. It's a microwave radiometer. JAXA is going to start doing official data distribution around the AMSR-3 observations, which are particularly helpful for water cycle analysis. So this was launched about a year ago. The satellite, the new data is going to support weather forecasting, as well as fisheries and ship navigation. On the international front, China has added 20 more Japanese aerospace and defense entities to its export control list. Japan took the initial step of putting 20 Japanese companies on this essentially export ban list um, in early 2026 and 20 more to a watch list. It's essentially doubling that list, bringing the total to 80 companies. The targets include affiliates doing a lot of work related to both space and aerospace. Mitsubishi Electric, Fujitsu, NEC Aerospace, and so on. This is going to block any dual-use goods that of rare earth and other critical minerals shipments and amount to a ban on these things to many more Japanese companies. Not good news for Japan, and it will probably accelerate efforts to find alternative supply chains, but it's likely to be painful in the near term. Japan is also launching another international effort called the Digital Corridor that's going to run from span Taiwan to India. The Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications launched 8 communications infrastructure projects under the so-called Free and Open Indo-Pacific strategy. 8 billion yen are being allocated to fund this and being directed at a number of projects that include resilience testing for the Japan-Taiwan undersea fiber optic cable, piloting an all-photonic network being developed by NTT, as well as supporting data center demand. The Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communication, also known as MIC or MIC, opened calls for proposals for domestic operators, and we can expect to hear more about that in the coming months. Japan has revised its Arctic policy. Prime Minister Takaichi directed this revision. It's the first revision in the Japan Arctic policy since 2015. The updated policy will prioritize Arctic-capable dual-use technologies like unmanned vehicles, underwater drones, and satellite-based ocean monitoring for marine domain awareness. JAMSTEC, which is the Japan Agency for Marine Earth Science and Technology, has a new icebreaker called Midai 2 under construction. Expects to be launched in March next year, and this will be a key platform for this new policy. Midai 2 is an international research platform with foreign researchers aboard as well, so this is not very much a research asset, but obviously has potential dual-use applications. This is a full-fledged icebreaker and can also operate underwater drones. Japan is leading the first ever international level 4 autonomous driving safety standards. There's a UN World Forum on it's called the Harmonization of Vehicle Registration, Vehicle Regulation. Sorry, they recently agreed on the first international safety standards around level 4 autonomous vehicles. These are high automation, not complete automation. That's level 5, but for sections of road could operate driverlessly. This is pretty relevant for a number of efforts to develop this kind of capability, particularly not just for cars, but for trucks, as well as for companies like Dynamic Map Platform that build high-definition 3D geospatial data to support autonomous driving. Prime Minister Takaichi was in India for an economic security summit this past week. Japan is stepping up its economic security cooperation with a number of Asia-Pacific countries, including India. And some of this is, again, aimed at countering China's rare earth export restrictions and other economic pressure. There are several deals signed between Japanese and Indian companies as a part of this. I'll mention those a little bit later. But some concrete provisions included rare earth processing and magnet manufacturing in Andhra Pradesh with Toyota Tsusho participation, as well as MOUs for mineral exploration and partnerships around semiconductor R&D and undersea cable infrastructure. This is all aimed at, similar to the digital corridor that I just mentioned a few minutes ago, as well as other efforts aimed at supply chain resilience against Chinese export controls. JAXA and Tohoku University demonstrated a lunar soil fertilizer synthesis system. So researchers growing rice seedlings in a simulant of lunar regolith were able to use nitrogen fertilizer synthesized from ambient air. That seems extraordinary. With a 100-watt portable plasma device. The process generates dinitrogen pentoxide gas and neutralizes what is otherwise very alkaline lunar soil and enables plant nutrients that are useful to plants to be unlocked. So this was published in Microgravity this past week. The diagram that you see is an illustration of this plasma-based agriculture system that would use air as a raw material. Sounds magical. Deals this week. Space BD closed at 3.5 billion yen. That's about US $22 million. Series C funding round. In the Japan-India bilateral summit I just mentioned, there were a few space deals as well. iSpace signed partnership agreements with Deonterra and Hex 20 Labs. Infostellar signed a partnership with Pramatra Space and XD Links. Pramatra Space works on quantum key distribution, and XD Links makes a small satellite bus. Takasago Electric signed a partnership agreement with Manastu Space Technologies around the satellite thrusters that Manastu makes. Sagri, which is a geospatial data analysis firm in Japan, signed partnerships with TaskMonk technology and testing experts to Indian companies. TaskMonk is around developing training data pipelines for AI and machine learning, and testing experts is AI-based software testing. Sagri uses satellite data analysis with AI and machine learning for field monitoring, crop surveys, and connecting owners of farms with agricultural operations. Axel Space signed a 4-year JAXA contract for its Axel Liner Lab for research on high mobility electric propulsion systems. This will run starting in FY 2026 through a demonstration phase. The AL Lab leverages Axel Liners, very short development cycles, and mass production capabilities to enable customers to validate satellite components in orbit. This is aiming to support a key JAXA priority around building out a domestic supply chain, as well as speeding up product development testing. Solonica raised a seed round for laser wireless power transmission targeting drones. This also seems kind of magical. Solonica is a spin-off from the Institute of Science in Tokyo, and this funding round was led by the Incubate Fund, as well as a debt facility from Mizuho Bank. The funds are going to support flight demonstration of a continuous laser wireless power transmission to hovering drones. They think they can have this nailed in testing by late 2026. In the long run, they want to be able to help support recharging of batteries for both high altitude platform systems as well as lunar exploration rovers. Pretty amazing. Spaceshift has signed a partnership agreement with a Thai organization called NBJV, Nagase Thailand B2G Solution joint venture, to distribute its SAT AI satellite data analysis platform in Thailand. The platform is used for things like disaster prevention, agriculture, and infrastructure monitoring. And the sales efforts with this joint venture partnership are going to be focused on Thai government agencies. Mitsubishi Electric won some funding for a sovereign, fully digital satellite communications system that would operate in geostationary orbit. So this is going to be in partnership with Sky Perfect JSAT, which owns a number of geostationary communications assets. And the goal is to define what will become communication standards for the 2030s. The funding is going to run from 2026 to 2028, and it's going to be built on top of some previous satellite technology demonstrations, but it will bring it closer to being a production capability, including things like direct radiating array antennas, digital beamforming and jamming, anti-jamming processing, and software-defined communications beams. Sharp has signed an MOU with SES to provide flat panel space terminals for mid-Earth orbit services. So SES operates a constellation of mid-Earth orbit satellites called O3b mPOWER at about 8,000 kilometers altitude. These are high availability communication satellites, not as far away with as large a latency as geostationary orbit, but not in the crowded LEO space. So Sharp is working to develop a lightweight flat panel satellite terminal that leverages its experience in smartphone engineering. This will target not so much consumers as industrial, maritime, mountainous region, and autonomous vehicle clients where cell coverage is poor. They aim to have a service launched as soon as FY 2027. Sharp is not just going to develop a terminal hardware, but also provide system integration and operations for enterprises. Some of this cost is being supported by a grant from the National Institute of Information and Communications Technologies, or NICT. Space BD closed 3.5 billion yen Series C. Space BD does rideshare integration for the H3 rocket. We do ISS cargo payload integration and other services. That these funds are going to enable them to expand their space engineering and manufacturing partnerships and secure rocket launch slots, as well as add staff. And finally, NYK Line and Osaka University are partnering to build offshore rocket recovery vessels. So NYK is Nippon Yusen Kaisha. They're a shipbuilding company, and they've signed this partnership with Osaka University because Osaka University has a naval architecture and systems engineering department. Combine those capabilities to develop recovery vessels and motion stabilization systems that you need for reusable launch vehicles. Japan clearly wants to build reusable rockets. It's also clearly a few years behind leaders in the US like SpaceX and Blue Origin in terms of having this kind of ship. But having an offshore ship be the landing platform is a lot safer alternative than having rockets landing back on shore. That's a wrap for this week's Japan Earth Observer News Roundup. If you like what you see, please subscribe, and you can also get regular news roundups and in-depth stories like this through the Japan Earth Observer newsletter at japanearthobserver.com. See you next week.